I think in healthcare, we made a really big mistake. We went from face-to-face to text messages and apps. It's so convenient, but it's not persuasive. When you can feel that I care in my voice is when you'll listen to me. The persuasion and the empathy and the emotion that's able to be conveyed with this generation of AI, that's driving more efficacy.
Hey everybody, I'm Seth. Welcome back to Aging Intelligence, where we talk to the world's leaders about how they're going to help society address its coming silver tsunami. Today we have a super interesting guest. His name is Munjal Shah, and it just so happens to be that we've known each other for, 25 years.
20 some odd years.
Munjal has done a couple more companies than I have in that time. I've done two.
Yeah, this is my number 4.
Number 4.
Yeah.
Okay. And he has done a couple of companies that are super, super relevant to what we think about at Honor and a lot of you think about, which is to say older adults and kind of how society helps work with them. So Munjal's last company called Health IQ helped older adults find the best MA plan, Medicare Advantage plan for themselves. And then his current company called Hippocratic is super interesting. He took AI and he applied AI to the healthcare ecosystem, and specifically, how do you help the healthcare ecosystem reach out to patients and have conversations with them that help free up capacity for clinical labor to go do more and spend their time more wisely, while I think really helping those patients connect better with their healthcare provider, whoever that may be. Is that a fair characterization?
We basically made a voice agent that operates within the scope of a registered nurse or lower, care coordinators and others, and calls patients on the phone and makes sure they're okay and make sure they're following their discharge instructions and make sure they're taking their medications and helping them with whatever they need.
That's awesome. So let's just unpack for a second, because where you and I are sitting right now in Silicon Valley, we say we made a voice agent and we think everybody knows what we're talking about. Yeah. Let's make sure everybody knows what we're talking about. Yeah. So what is a voice agent like?
Yeah. I think the first part is there's a revolution that came with ChatGPT.
Okay.
We basically got AI that went from an IQ of 60 to an IQ of 120. And I think most people don't realize that. They're like, oh, we had this IVR. It wasn't very good. It annoyed everybody. Why is this any different?
Yep.
And the truth is, it's quite different. As you've no doubt learned when you use ChatGPT for the first time, you're like, wow, AI finally works.
Yep.
AI is really smart.
Yep.
AI can do all of these things.
Yeah.
I think that what people didn't realize is it also enables a voice conversation. And I think in healthcare, we made a really big mistake 10 years ago, 15 years ago. We went from face-to-face to voice to text messages and apps. We said, oh, this is the future. This is how patients are going to interact. It's so convenient for them.
Yeah.
It's so convenient, but it's not persuasive. I actually think there's a voice renaissance coming because in the end, when you can feel that I care in my voice is when you'll listen to me. And I don't get credit for having reached out to 1 million people to tell them to take their meds. I only get credit for the ones who take their meds.
Right.
And the persuasion and the empathy and the emotion that's able to be conveyed with this generation of AI is actually driving. It may reach fewer people, but it's driving more efficacy in them. And so we now have a new generation of AI. They can call patients on the phone. Talk to them, remember everything about them, know every medication they're on, and follow all of the care pathways and care protocols they're supposed to follow.
Okay, so there are two interesting things in here. One is you just kind of highlighted, look, this can be like super, super personalized.
Yeah.
Right? Like way better personalized than a human could do, actually. Can you dive on that a little bit more for people?
Look, the AI can remember every conversation. And this idea that you call up and nag and hang up is part of the problem of why it wasn't persuasive. Why don't you call up and get to know them? Why aren't I calling the seniors and saying, I'm going to chit chat with you for 5 minutes about this new fertilizer recipe I got for your rose garden. And then I'll be like, oh, I forgot why I called. Right. Actually, we didn't get your blood pressure reading from yesterday. Can you just take it for me while we're on the phone?
Yeah.
Right? Like, I know you're a big cyclist, Seth. If I called you and talked cycling talk for 5 minutes, 10 minutes, you'd probably take my call next time. If I call up and just nag you about something, you'd be like, oh, it's that caller ID again. I'm not going to answer it.
That's right.
And I think so we have AI now that can remember every patient, truly deliver personalized care in a way that we couldn't. And the cost structure works. I mean, your average clinical resource in the U.S. is $50 to $90 an hour.
Yep.
These AIs are 1/10 that cost.
So that's actually really interesting. So I want to make sure everybody really gets it. So Hippocratic basically is going, which I'm just going to use random names here. I'm not sure if they're actually your clients or not, but it goes to, let's say, a provider of healthcare, and it says
health system or
okay, so a health system. I know there's John Muir here, right? They're in Contra Costa.
Yeah.
And John Muir could use Hippocratic to call someone who discharged having had some kind of heart procedure. And Hippocratic would basically have a conversation. It would be a voice AI, and it would say, hey, just want to check, how are you doing?
Yep.
Have you been following the post-discharge instructions? Have you been taking your meds? Do you feel okay? And then John Muir is going to get kind of the data back after that conversation, right?
That's right.
Okay.
Yes, exactly.
So
with one twist.
Yeah.
And it's a big twist.
Okay.
All of healthcare has been premised on clinical scarcity.
Yep.
If you really look at how healthcare is designed, it's always assumed you did not have enough caregivers, you did not have enough clinicians.
Yep.
And we've just assumed that's okay.
Yep.
And because that's all we got.
Yep.
We've always had a shortage, so we'll always have a shortage going forward. In fact, the shortage is about to get much worse, which we should talk about.
Oh, yeah.
But we've never said, hey, what would you do differently if you had an infinite
Exactly.
supply?
This is exactly where I wanted to go. It feels like you're almost a workforce multiplier for that provider.
I think that, the great example is most people say, oh, but, right now maybe a clinician's making that discharge call. Actually, at most hospital systems, nobody's making that discharge call. This is the fallacy of AI. I think people think, oh, my God, it's humans versus the AI. The humans would have done it better. I'm like, it's not about the humans versus the AI. It's about nobody versus the AI. My chief medical officer's mom got her knee replaced, left the hospital where he used to be COO. And never got a discharge call.
Wow.
And he used to work there, right? Yeah. And so, but not only that, but now we can do it in what we call a super staffing way. I don't just call you once. I call you on day 3 when you're supposed to change your bandage and say, hey, today you're supposed to change your bandage on your incision site. Can I walk you through that, ma'am? And you always have a few questions. Do I take that on? Do I put on more of the cream before the thing? Do I leave it open for a little while to let it dry? Like, you're just confused sometimes about the instructions. And what is easier to follow? Batch instructions given to you all at once when you're coming out of, being under and you can't even you're so disoriented, or just-in-time instructions delivered to you every single day that you need to do something critical in the first 10 days after you leave. Obviously, the second's way better. And so there's a super staffing dimension of this that I think people haven't even begun to get their heads around.
Yeah. So there's this concept in healthcare, people call it top of license, right? And it allows like a nurse to do the hardest things that a nurse is trained to do as opposed to the easiest things a nurse is trained to do.
That's right.
And because Hippocratic exists, someone like John Muir, or a system like John Muir could say, hey, nurses, don't do those calls anymore because really we could have Hippocratic do it. Go focus on what you do extraordinarily well. They're not cutting the nurses, but rather they're creating new services for patients that they've discharged and giving them a better experience.
And we see this everywhere.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that, again, most people have not really realized that if you look at the math, right, there aren't even enough nurses in nursing school to deal with the retirement coming, let alone the scale up we have to do to keep up with the aging population. Let alone what actually would result in the best health outcomes. The best health outcomes might be to call you every single day for 30 days after your discharge.
Right. But no way do we have the staff to do that.
No way are we staffing that. No way can we afford to do that if we do. But would that on the margin give you better and better? Every day you call would give you better and better. And people are like, oh, that would be annoying. It'll be too patient abrasive. No. We've looked at it pre and post a procedure. We get like 95% of the people answer the phone and answer it every time it calls. It's your hospital calling you after you came out of a procedure. Like, you want to know, why are they calling and what do they need me to do? And so there is a, this is what we have now. And I'll give you another example of something that's recently. When you have this abundance, you can do things you never thought to do. So there was recently a heat wave in New York. We called 16,000 patients at the hottest 2 hours of the day, every single day of the heat wave, did a heat stroke assessment, called them an Uber, and got them to a cooling center. You could have never done that with humans.
Right.
All right. You would have needed 2,000 to 4,000 nurses who would do that assessment with a 5-10 days notice of a coming, heat wave. And it would have cost you $2 to $3 million a day.
Right. And just salary costs.
And just salary costs. And by the way, could you really get them
you
for 2
can't even
hours?
get
You
those
couldn't.
people.
You'd
Yeah.
have to get
It
them
would
for
be
8 hours.
impossible to hire and
The whole
train.
thing wouldn't
and
work.
It wouldn't
right?
work. Yeah.
But even if it did, like that's a lot of ER admissions on 16,000 people to offset. It's
Yep.
not sure you would get your ROI on that.
Right. Yeah.
And therefore you wouldn't do it again. And
Right.
that's why actually nobody does this call today
Right.
when
Yep.
there's a heat wave.
But
But AI, it costs about $15,000 a day.
Yeah.
So 1.5 ER admissions,
Yep.
and you're break even.
Yeah.
So you do
Amazing.
it, you provide better care. That patient doesn't want to end up in the ER for
Yep.
overheating either.
Yeah.
And so there's just a bevy of new abundance. And so we really call this kind of, I think we'll look back at this era and we won't call it the AI era. We'll call it the abundance era because we truly had an ability to overcome the scarcity that used to dominate how we think about healthcare.
Yeah, no, it's really interesting because we think a lot about, in our world, how can we reduce the cost of care for in-home care? And one thing we think a lot about is how can AI make staffing a lot more efficient? How could we put devices in the home that work with the humans? Yes, there will be less human in the home overall,
right?
But way, way, way more people will now be able to afford to stay in their homes as a result of that system. So you're actually creating more net jobs.
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah. And you're basically saying the same thing. And I think this is kind of when people think about the dystopian future of AI and they go into job cut land, it's like, or it could actually be abundance land because it could be we reduce the cost of services that were super critical for people. And then we free people up to do much more top of license, higher value stuff.
I think we're actually seeing the use cases of things you do today that we can do cheaper with AI are actually very hard to roll out effectively. They're not working that well.
Yeah.
The use cases of things you never thought to do until you had an infinite supply are actually doing incredibly well. And so I think that this is not only like the future we're all arguing, it's actually what the data is showing as what's working. And so, now we have the ability to do that. Now you do have to do it safe, which is another whole conversation. But I think that we've not started thinking about all the ways we can truly leverage this abundance to truly create care. And to me, there's only 2 industries that can absorb this abundance. Meaning if you have 1,000 accountants in your company and I give you 10,000 for the price of 1,000, are your financials really going to get that much better? No, they're not, right? Maybe an extra 10% to clean up your books a little, but after that, no. But in healthcare, the ideal staffing is really one person to one caregiver. And in education is the other one. The ideal staffing is one teacher to one student. These are the 2 industries that I think can absorb this abundance. And, we happen to be in one of them.
Right. Yeah, for sure. So you brought it up. I think it's a really, really important topic to talk about. It's actually, let's take safety and let's just broaden out. So when you have a platform shift, any kind of platform shift, there's just these like classic phases that you go through. And there's this kind of like, oh my God, euphoria and excitement. And one part of the euphoria phase is 2 people in a garage building and hacking, start dialing for dollars, figure out who they can sell it to. That is and there are like tens of thousands of those. That is very different from what you're building at Hippocratic and the way you're building it. And so I want to talk about a couple experiences I've seen inside Home Instead and Honor, and then ask you how you kind of solve for them. So we have this issue where either to us at headquarters or to our franchise owners, they're literally the collective network is probably getting, 50 pitches a day across our collective network of, hey, I've got the best voice agent ever. It'll do sales calls for you, or it'll do, patient check-in for you. And the pitches sound amazing, right? They're probably AI generated. The pitch sounds amazing. And most people don't know how to qualify the pitch, right? And when I get these things coming into me, one of the first questions I often ask is, well, how many people are on your team? And the answer is often 2. And then I'm like, okay, and how long did it take you to build this? And it's like, oh, we did it in like 2 months. And I'm like, okay, like this is probably not going to be safe enough. It's probably not going to handle enough of the edge cases. There's like a lot of risk in using this. And I actually just heard a story that we know some of our franchise locations have been experimenting with these. We're actually now starting to roll out like very kind of clear policy around that experimentation, because we've gotten some calls at HQ where people have said like, hey, I'm getting really annoyed by your sales calls. And it's like, what sales calls? And it turns out that like one AI agent that someone was testing placed a bajillion sales calls without any kind of governor on it. And it was really bad. Right. So How have you built for a great customer experience in an AI in an era where AI hallucinates? Mm-hmm. Have you built for safety? Like, what's the right way to build these things so that you don't end up in all these bad edge cases?
So I think there's two parts to that. So one is the safety question, the other is the abrasion question. So okay. I'll tackle the safety question first. So I think on the safety side, anytime you're doing a patient-facing conversation, you never know what's going to come up. Mm-hmm. I think everybody thinks it's so, you can use an AI, it doesn't have to be that clinical, no big deal. Okay, I'm going to give you 2 actual calls we got into our system. All right. There's a guy who called to schedule an appointment with a neurologist. Mm-hmm. You think scheduling, how complicated can that be?
That's an easy one. Yeah.
That's admin. You don't need an AI. Yeah. Well, like the AI asks him, she goes, hey, why do you want to schedule with a neurologist so I can get you the right appointment type? Oh, I was struck by lightning at work yesterday. For real. He actually said that. That was actually the thing. Now, if you think about it, it's quite complicated then because obviously he just shouldn't go to the ER right now because he's fine and it's the next day and you don't need to clog the ERs with more stuff. Right. But you probably shouldn't give him an appointment with a neurologist 6 weeks from now either. He probably needs one tomorrow. Yeah. And somebody needs to squeeze him in. Yeah. The AI has to have that judgment. Right. Okay, that's nowhere I can guarantee you in any of the business rules written for the scheduling system did it say, if struck by lightning, do this sure. in the neurology scheduling. I mean, what? No. Yeah. The second example is we did a post-CHF discharge. Mm-hmm. So this was in a CHF exacerbation. The person had been sent home. Mm-hmm. And I could see some of your staff checking in on a patient in this condition, right? You're not clinical, but still, like, you would be there probably helping out. Yeah. And so in the congestive heart failure case, one of the things you look for is have they gained weight? Mm-hmm. More than 2 pounds in a day or 5 pounds in a week is considered a red alert or yellow alert that, something's got to happen because it'll put more pressure on the heart and have history. So we call up, the husband answers, and we ask him, how's the wife doing? Because she was the one that got discharged. Yeah. And he said, she's okay. We said, wait, has she gained any weight? He said, I tried to get her on the scale, but she was too weak to stand. Okay. Nowhere in the normal protocols for CHF does it say too weak to stand on scale. Right. Nowhere in the normal, what are called the Schmidt-Thompson triage protocols that are used in 95% of triage call centers, is there a branch that says, tried to get weight, but too weak to say that, equals transfer, a red transfer directly to a human nurse. Yep. Our AI, because of how we architected it, which I'll tell you about in a second, made a judgment call. Mm-hmm. Actually said this needs a call back in 4 hours. We actually notified the health system that's our partner because they're the ones who do the callback. Yep. They called back in 8 minutes. Mm-hmm. They talked to him, realized she was not actually doing well. Yep. And they really encouraged him to bring her back in. He refused. They called back 5 hours later just to check. Yeah. She had died. Wow. This is an actual case. Now, what would have happened if the AI had been the last one to talk to him before she died? Right. That would have been a disaster. Mm-hmm. But the AI did its job. It tagged in the human. The humans couldn't convince him to do it. Mm-hmm. Okay. Mm-hmm. Right? But it made a judgment call. Mm-hmm. So now, how do you build a system that'll handle these subtle corner cases? Right. Because this is where you're going to have real liability. This is where you're going to harm a life, which none of us want to do. Nobody working at Honor and nobody working in your franchisees is doing it because they don't care about people. They genuinely want to help. Mm-hmm. And so what we have found is, first, the LLMs themselves are not good at attention span. Mm. You ask them to do one thing, and they do it okay. Mm-hmm. You ask them to do 10 things at once, they start dropping them. Mm. We solved that problem. So the Hippocratic AI solution is actually 31 LLMs working together, a main one that talks, 30 that supervise. Mm. We're listening for all kinds of things. One of the 30, overdose engine. Mm-hmm. It's listening for every turn and saying, are we talking about drugs? Oh, yeah, we're talking about drugs. Okay. Is that more than the prescription? Because we have access to the EMR. Oh, is that more than max toxicity? Yep. Oh, creams and injectables, particularly hard. Oh, I took a bunch of my testosterone cream and rubbed it on my hand. Right. Is that an overdose? I don't know. How much cream was in your hand? What was the concentration of the cream? Yeah. Like, it's kind of subtle. Yeah. And so we have these 30 engines that do that. We have an escalation engine that actually runs the Schmidt-Thompson protocol. And basically, we'll decide if we're going to transfer the call to a human nurse real time. We have real-time staffing that allows for that. On top of all that, if there's an adult protective services issue, it'll notify as per the laws of the state. If there's a suicidal thing, it'll actually notify and transfer. So we've built all of these systems to double check, triple check. You basically can't get there with one. Now, the other part is there's actually a very difficult technical issue. And that is that the smartest LLMs are too slow to use for voice. They take too long.
Right.
An LLM is measured by the number of parameters. To really simplify it, what a number of parameters is actually quite literally is the number of connections between the neurons in the neural network. It's like the number of connections in the human brain. Turns out the more connections an AI has, the smarter it is. But the longer it takes to give you, the slower it is. So what we had to do is we found that only the smartest models, i.e. the biggest in number of parameters, could catch subtle things. Seth, are you having shortness of breath? And you go, you don't say yes, you don't say no, you say, feels like there's an elephant on my chest. The small ones miss it.
Oh, interesting.
The big ones are like, oh, shoot, that's a yes.
Right.
Right? And so, and mark it as a yes and then continue on their algorithm with that. And so you need these big models to do this, but making them fast requires a ton of engineering. You need 31 models running together. If you build them on OpenAI and don't use open source, it costs more. It costs $105 an hour.
Wow.
To run 31 models in parallel. The math doesn't work at all.
Wow.
So you have to build a custom solution where you do that. On top of all that, one of the things we said was you got to not only have an escalation engine where you can transfer the call, but you also have to have the ability to do output testing. So a lot of people say, hey, my AI is safe. I trained it on this good data. That does not matter. There's, you guys all know what PubMed is. It's this great repository that has all this clinical research. There's the thing called PubMed GPT, trained only on PubMed, high quality data. Still makes stuff up. Still hallucinates. So what we found is one of the ways to stop hallucinations is to use models upon models upon models checking. The other ones use bigger models. But the other way to do it is we actually hired 7,500 U.S. licensed nurses. We checked their license numbers. We made sure they weren't suspended. We put them in a gig app, and every morning they wake up and we said, today for $40, call this AI, act as a patient, mark every error it makes. 1 out of 50 times, you'll get a human nurse on the other line. And then we won't launch till we're safer than the humans. And so it took us 18 months of that iteration over and over again, version after version, use case after use case, until we did it. Every time we build a new use case, a new model, we send it through that. Every time we build a new use case, we send it through that same calibration. Even when we go live, the first 1,000 calls, we listen to every single one within an hour and call back the patient if there's a problem. And then we still sample 2% of the calls on top of that. You cannot screw around because this is a human life at stake. And I think that's the difference that we've seen. And it's taken us, our companies, we've raised $450 million, as I mentioned it. So, we had to build our own models to do it. We had to train them on very specific things. We had to make sure they escalated proper to humans at the right time in the right place. And now we've done 180 million patient interactions without a single major safety incident. And so now I'm like, okay, not only did I think it was going to be safe, we've proven it on the other side. But I still think that there are serious risks. We recently had to build a special engine to deal with half pills.
Half pills.
Half pills because the LLMs just don't handle numbers well. And they don't, when you cut pills in half and cut pills in fourths, and then it's got to count and it's got to add them up and see if there's an overdose. It's complicated. We had to build a special thing to just deal with half pills. We had to build a special engine to deal. So we used to fail on 25% of all the calls. All right.
Wow. So that was early on. You're building it.
Why? Background TV.
Oh, sure.
When you call older people at home, what are they doing a lot of time? Watching TV. If it's like my parents' house, the TV is loud because my dad's half deaf. Well, the AI is listening for speech. Background noise is easy to filter out. It's not the thing you're looking for, but background speech is very hard. We had to build a special engine just to take out background speech. And otherwise, now we still fail on 2%. Because of the TV is just too loud, frankly. But these are all the special features. We had to deal with switching languages dynamically. We had to deal with post-stroke victims that have slurred speech. So we have a slurred speech engine we trained it on. So it can handle when you're speaking in a really unclear way. We had to build an engine because patients can't say drug names properly. They'll leave off entire syllables, right? And so the AI, we actually have an engine that's constantly trying to guess. It's like, you have these conditions, you are on these other medications, you murmured these phrases, I bet you meant this one, and then they verifies it with the patient. And even saying drug names, it turns out that the AIs can't consistently say the drug names without, and it loses a lot of credibility if it says it one way once on the call and then a minute later says it the other way.
Okay, so I think there are like a lot of really important lessons in this, because I think I've seen this a lot now, and it's really scary, because I think the hallucinations are so good that people now are missing when the models are hallucinating. In fact, I was just talking to our CFO earlier today about a case inside the company where one of our people missed that a model was hallucinating. And we have now processes in the company where we basically tell everyone you're not allowed to present an AI's work as your own work. Like, you can only present, any work you present is your work. Yeah. And if you're wrong and it was from an AI, it's like you were wrong, not the AI was wrong.
All right.
So what you're basically telling us is, the normal LLMs today, like if you just use ChatGPT, if you just use Gemini, whatever, they are going to get all of this stuff wrong, right? Like
or just miss it.
Enough. They're going to get it wrong enough that, you're going to have a 25% error rate or worse. So you have to build a very complicated, expensive system is basically what you just said, which is what
and a lot of redundancy.
Yep.
There's no such thing as a safety system that isn't redundant.
Yep.
Boeing doesn't just say, oh, there's this one fly-by-wire.
Right.
You're a pilot, you probably know. But like, there's probably a fly-by connection, hard connection. Yeah. There's probably a fly-by wireless backup.
Yeah.
Right? Like, because you can't have this go down.
System. Yeah.
And that is the central principle of all safety systems. Yeah. And that's what you have to do here.
Yeah. But the other thing I think that you said that's really interesting is even a scenario that seems innocuous.
Right.
Like, hey, it's just a call for scheduling.
Right.
Can have these really crazy directions that it goes in, especially if you're dealing with kind of a vulnerable population. Right. And that's what you deal with. That's what we deal with.
Even 0.1% of the time on 1,000 people is still one person you're hurt.
Right. Yep.
Nobody wants to do that.
Right. So you have to really have done the utmost that you possibly can. Yeah. And so that means...
And you have to be safer than the human doing the same test.
That's right. Because the test for you, for sure, is going to be at least, are you beating the human?
Yes. Ideally, you're beating 90% of the humans.
That's right. Yeah.
You're in the top 10%.
Yeah. Super interesting. So you brought up a really fascinating example of, hey, when it's an older adult that we're calling, one of the things that we figured out is television in the background. And that was a thing that we had to build specialization for. Like that would be another good Gemini would kind of miss it.
Yes.
Two people in a garage building on top of Gemini. They're going to miss that, right? What are other special cases around older adults that you've had to build for? You mentioned slurred speech, which was interesting. I'll bet accents, like really strong accents might be one. Like
there's some. Actually, it's a little bit the reverse.
Okay.
They're tired of talking to people in other countries where they can't understand the accent.
Oh, wow.
So they actually really like that it's a good non-accented voice.
Yeah.
But the other things are a mild cognitive impairment.
Oh, MCI, yeah.
MCI, where you're also just very forgetful.
Oh,
so we've had people who we talk to them and you listen to the calls and so, what time is my appointment? Oh, tomorrow at 2. And then like a minute later, what time is my appointment? Oh, it's tomorrow at 2, ma'am. And then for that patient, you better call them tomorrow at 1.
Oh, interesting.
If you don't call them, and you maybe even call them tomorrow at 1:30.
Yep.
Are you out the door, ma'am?
Yep.
And so we have realized that there are really specific cases where you need to build additional features.
Yeah.
We have found that the AI is very effective when it speaks in their native tongue. A lot, a number of older Americans here, their kids emigrated to the U.S. My parents are this way. They speak English fine, but it's not their native tongue. They're not as comfortable in it.
Yeah.
And we looked at colorectal screening rates in rural Pennsylvania.
Yeah.
The Spanish population was 1/10 out of the English.
Wow.
They wanted to close the gap.
Yep.
We called in Spanish.
Yeah.
Right from the get-go.
Yep.
And we got it not only up to the English, we got it 2.5 times the English. It cost $1.50 per fit kit sent out.
Wow.
And what was super interesting about it was when you listen to the calls, there was a skepticism that the AI was able to overcome that the normal script had never done whenever they had reached out before or sent a letter.
Really?
Which was, hey, in my country where I grew up, most of these folks are from some part of Latin America. Right. They're like, when the doctor tells me to get a cancer screening, it's because he thinks I have cancer.
Huh. Oh, interesting.
Is that what the doctor thinks?
Yeah.
Because I don't
want to go there. Yeah.
I'm worried if I take the test, I'll have cancer. Right. It's like this weird, like reverse psychology that comes to play. Yeah. And they're like, well, and we're like, no, in the AI just nicely explained. Actually, all the Spanish calls were about 6 minutes long versus 3 minutes long for the normal calls.
Oh, wow.
And in there was the explanation, well, here in this country, we we have a preventative screening thing, and they do it even if, just on age and that, and
Right.
it isn't that he thinks
Doesn't mean anything. There's no suspicion.
You shouldn't be worried, and it's totally covered.
Yeah.
Just come, ma'am.
So this is like a real issue. The language thing for older adults, it's a really good point. It's a huge issue. A woman who used to take care of me when I was a kid, she still talks to my mother. I actually was just at my mother's house in Connecticut the other day. She told me that woman's now 90. And that woman actually called her the other day, only speaking Portuguese. She is at a point in her life where she's kind of forgotten her English that she learned. Yeah. So she learned English, and she interacted with me and my sister all in English, but she's kind of forgotten the English, and it's back to Portuguese for her. So this language thing, especially for older adults, really, really big deal.
Yeah. And there's a whole host of additional specific features. There's a lot of clarification we do.
Yep.
When they say something, they just ramble and don't answer. Like think of a health risk assessment. You go through and you ask a question, and people just tell stories, but they don't answer the question.
Totally, yeah.
And you actually have to,
you need the LLM
everybody
to notice
on
that.
your, who works at Honor and works at some of your franchisees, I'm sure is like, ask a question and got a rambling answer with no answer, and the AI has to know how to clarify and say, I'm going to take that as a yes.
And it doesn't get frustrated. Importantly.
And it never gets frustrated. It's highly empathetic. And so I think these are some of the advantages that we see, and folks they're willing to talk, and will talk. And there is a loneliness in older Americans in this society. It's nuclear family structures are not great for aging folks because they get isolated very easily. And but it is the West. Actually, even most of India now is going very nuclear and no longer a joint family system. And so this is the way of the future. And so you have to build these. A lot of it's safety. Some of it, to your other point on abrasion. Yep. The abrasion's an interesting question. What it is they didn't take the time to go relationship first.
Yeah.
See, they didn't build a relationship and be helpful. They just went in for the transaction.
Yeah.
And they also didn't do some of the best practices. So we don't call that often. Yeah. But we pre-text and we post-text and we say, hey, I'm calling on behalf of, one of our clients is Cleveland Clinic. I'm calling on behalf of Cleveland Clinic.
Right.
And we're going to call you in about 10 minutes. Yep. Just want to let you know, and here's why we're calling. Yep. And then if we miss you, we say, hey, I'm Cleveland Clinic. We just called you. Yep. Call us back anytime.
Right.
Day or night.
Sure.
Right. Whatever's convenient for you, I'm here. Whereas, today, if your clinician calls you and leaves a voicemail, and you try calling back, do you ever get the clinician again?
Right.
No, you don't.
It's like when I see that call come in, I'm like, yes, sir.
I got to get it right.
If I don't, I'm going to go through, hours of waiting.
Of just back and forth, right?
And terrible. So
I think that there's a way to avoid the abrasion. Right. But we do have to take a different paradigm. Now, also the AI can negotiate. Yep. With some of our things we're now setting up, we're saying, hey, what's a good time to talk to you about your health, ma'am? Yeah. Oh, actually, Saturday mornings at 9 is a good time for me. I'm available. I'm typically at home. I'm not out and about yet. Okay, great. We'll call you the first Saturday of every month. Just to check in. You don't have to have these things. And the AI can do that. If you have a call center that says, please call exactly at 9 o'clock in the morning, or even like you and I are so busy at work. If we're, every now and then I've been like, I have a gap between 4 o'clock and 4:15. I don't have any meetings. Can you call me right in that window? Do they ever call you right in that window? Never. Yeah. They can never do it. I mean, they'd have to have in a call center. It's actually very hard to do. Yep. And then the last part is we're starting to learn something we call omni-topic. Okay. If I call you about any topic and you got me on the phone, like I'm calling to reset the password on my, my chart app for my health system. Sure. Why are you not completing all your care activities with me? Well, you can't with humans because you have different
not trained.
Call centers.
Yeah, wrong person.
Call center A with cost structure licensure A, and then you have call center B with a different licensure, a different cost structure. And never the two shall meet, right? But now you can do everything at once. And so this is a radical idea. You call your payer, you're asking about your copay on your bill, but they want to make sure you're following your discharge instructions because if you get readmitted, they're going to pay more money. Well, great. Yep. And so I think this is some of what we're seeing. We're even seeing the AI interview people as they're leaving. Like your caregivers could be leaving the engagement and the AI just calls them up real quick while they're in the car and says, all right, tell me about Mrs. So-and-so and how'd that go and da-da-da. While it's fresh in your head, I'll capture it all. I'll write it to the CRM. I'll for the next person to go visit. has all that information. There's just simple, easy things like that.
Yeah. Okay. That's awesome. So I'm curious if we move on from kind of how you built the product, which is super fascinating, of course, and think about how you built the company.
Yeah.
So Mark Cuban was just on this podcast last week, and we were talking about how both Honor and Cost Plus Drugs were intentionally created kind of outside the core healthcare ecosystem. And you've kind of done the opposite. Like you built a product and you're like, and I am going to go sell this to core healthcare. I'm going to go to the payers. I'm going to go to the providers. What was behind, as an entrepreneur?
Right.
That's a harder path, right? And it's a risky path because your customers are very, very, very powerful.
Yes.
So what was your thinking as to why to build in that way? And Hippocratic's been very successful. So what did you do to make it work?
So I believe that one of the things people don't think through when there's a big new shift is they think history will repeat itself. History never repeats itself, it rhymes.
Yep.
There's always some twist that's different.
Yep.
The twist that I saw different here was we have the ability to build infinite clinical abundance. And so like that's the big idea. And so that has to be done in the core. It can't be done.
It is like a solution targeted to the core, and it's really an abundance solution for them. Yeah.
But we also made some trade-offs. I focused on a scope that doesn't diagnose or prescribe the scope of an RN or less.
Yep.
I did not say I was going to try to diagnose. In fact, even today you hear I've been like, AI is going to be your next doctor. I'm like, no, it's not.
That's not what you're doing. Yeah.
Well, and you're going to kill somebody probably doing that. Like, I think it's really, really risky. I think you can maybe go into it a little bit. Maybe I can do UTIs. I can do a few things. I can do travel immunizations. Okay, fine. Some of that's okay. But man, we are not, I think
you're not trying to replace a doctor or a nurse.
There was an arrogance that you see in a lot of tech folks that's like, oh, we're going to build an AI doctor. And Vinod Khosla runs around and he's always like, oh my God, all the doctors are going to not have a job in this many years. And all the, teachers are not going to have a job. And he's running around like, and actually I heard somebody recently was doing an interview with him and then they said, are the VCs going to have a job, Vinod? But I think that there's an arrogance to tech.
Right.
And if you make your North Star safety, you veer in a way that's different. And so we started the company, we named it Hippocratic. People are like, how serious are you about safety? I'm like, I don't know. I named it after the Hippocratic Oath. Like, I don't know how much more to say I care about safety. I made the tagline, do no harm. I said, the company was founded with clinicians at the core. My co-founder, Manesh, is on the board. He can go to the board anytime and report a safety incident around me. We set that up on purpose, right? To ensure that never gets compromised. Every employee comes into the company and takes an oath that says, I promise to put patients first and ensure safety, literally in front of the whole company, like hand up. And so I think that we architected it that way. Then we raised enough money. Our seed round was a $50 million seed round, $450 million, but that was a lot of money for a seed round. And they said, when are you launching? I'm like, we're launching when it's safer than the human.
It's ready. Yeah.
And they were like, oh, come on, you have VCs. They're going to push you to launch. I'm like, no, I told them this is the deal or I'm not taking your money. And they understood that safety mattered. And so we had kind of the ethos and the discipline to architect it that way. But going after core healthcare, we just realized that's where you can make the difference. That's where the need is. And this generation of AI, its best use is there, and it can finally do that core. And two other things in it. So you have the intersection of AI can do it. You combine that with there's just such a shortage of staffing in that area, and you combine that with your silver tsunami. A 70-year-old doesn't use twice the healthcare in terms of number of appointments, number of hospital admissions, number of prescriptions as a 35-year-old. They use like 10 times. Right. I don't know the exact number, but it's a lot. It's a big ratio. And so as we age in the population, the demand's going to go up. And I was like, look, we're going to solve it. We're going to solve that. I will tell you one other thing, which was a strategic thing. We realized that the horizontal models, your chat GPTs of the world, were going to be good enough for a lot of the things where safety wasn't an issue. And so we also thought very carefully and said, not only should, I call this my caterpillar strategy. Like, the caterpillar, the one that makes all the tractors. And so, GM has built a lot of different cars. You can get an SUV with GM and you can get a, a truck, a pickup truck, and you can get a, whatever sports car convertible.
Yep.
But they don't make tractors.
Yep. Yep.
Right? As far as I know. But because that needs such a specific engineering and such a specific reliability, in our case now safety, that actually there is a market for a company just to do nothing but build tractors that won't get consumed by the horizontal guys. And I think Hippocratic, if we look forward, will look like that. And I knew clinical was the hardest. Everybody stayed away from it, but it was actually the most defensible place to build a company.
So I think something that you've kind of mentioned around the edges, but I just want to call it out because it's almost like the topic of this podcast, is you've got this very rapidly aging society. And there are certain ways in which things will change, right? Like the stat is by 2034, so in 8 years, there will be more people over 65 than under 18 in the United States, which is insane.
Right.
And then if you start ticking down the implications, an implication we think a lot about is we literally won't have facilities for people to go to. Like facilities, aging facilities are already at capacity. Yeah, like the only way to take care of that population is at home. That's what we must figure out. We cannot societally do it any other way. You've brought up this really interesting thing, which is the healthcare ecosystem. I've always thought about it in terms of beds. Like we're going to probably run out of beds in hospitals at some point because of utilization. Sure. You're pointing out we're just going to run out of labor. Like we're going to run out of MDs. We're going to run out of RNs. Like we're just going to run out of labor.
That's right.
Yeah. And so you're helping solve that from a AI voice perspective.
It's either that or nobody.
Yeah, exactly.
I'll tell you the story of my mother. She, 6 years ago, she was diagnosed with high blood pressure. They gave her blood pressure meds.
Yep.
She didn't like them.
Yep.
They made her dizzy.
Yep.
Stopped taking them.
Yep.
Now she came out of that appointment and she's like, doctor said I'm the healthiest 70s, whatever she was, 77 at the time. That he knows. Oh, okay, mom. Fast forward to a year ago. One night I get an emergency call. Oh, we're at the ER. Your mom has 220, 230 blood pressure. Go in. She's there for 2 days. She has the beginnings of CHF. Now, I thought about that and I was like, whoa. Okay, first as a child, you feel horrible. You're like, I should have done that. She would have made sure I was healthy when I was young, right? But I mean, I don't know, short of snooping in her medicine cabinet, what I would have done. My HIPAA didn't let me have her access, but I do look at myself, I'm like, I should have snooped. Right. I should have done it. But but when you look at that scenario, her doctor knew.
Yep.
How did he know? Because she didn't refill for 5 years.
Right.
It's not like she refilled and threw it out.
Yeah.
I'm like, nobody thought to call her.
Called it out on it.
And just say, Mrs. Shaw, you haven't refilled in a month. Are you still taking this?
Yeah.
Like, can we at least get your blood pressure?
Yep.
I want the Mrs. Shaws of the world to have somebody that checks in on them.
Yeah.
And I don't think we have enough of this. And this is what I think Honor's architecture allows for, is a greater degree of just checking in.
Yeah, totally.
Is it okay? Do you need a refill on your medication? It's not a clinical thing your staff does there, but it's a very critical thing. And Michelle, you want me to call the doctor and tell him that it was really dizzy? Maybe he can change the mixture a little bit. Maybe he can titrate your medication a little more. Maybe he can put you on a different one. I mean, there's many different blood pressure meds, and they all work a little differently. Maybe there's one that's not so bad, and nobody did that.
Yeah, totally.
And now we're at a much more serious issue that we have to deal with.
Yeah.
And I just look at it and I'm like, let's use AI for that.
Yep.
And I think one last thing I'll point out is that is also the insight we've gotten. Don't try to do the things you're doing today. Don't try to replace the visit of your current care teams.
Yep.
Provide an extra visit in between.
Something new. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So there's one more thing before last question I want to ask you that I really want to call out that you kind of implicitly said. So you talked about how people thought because you took venture money that the venture capitalists would force you to release your product too early. There'd be too much pressure to move too fast. One of the observations that another thing Mark Cuban and I were talking about is a lot of these very complicated healthcare-esque new companies like an Honor, like Hippocratic, and then there are others, right? What Adrian's done, what Sami's done with Verda, et cetera, Ottman at Color. They're often being done by second-time entrepreneurs.
Yeah.
And there's second-time entrepreneurs who usually did something not healthcare as their first thing. But then the observation I have is, we're kind of doing a company, we're saying, hey, we now want to do something that's really meaningful for the world. And the mission is the motivation to do the company.
Yeah.
And then I think there's a thing in there, which is because you're a second-time entrepreneur, you also kind of frankly have the power to say to investors or whatever, look, I'm doing this the right way. Like, I'm doing a hard thing for society. It really matters. And it's going to be done the right way to fulfill on the mission. Has that been kind of your experience?
Look, I mean, everything in life compounds.
Yep.
And so if you have more experience and more success, it's compounding. You can use that compounding for your own selfish interests. You can use that compounding to help society more. It can give you can do things that other people can't possibly do.
Right.
Do you think 99%, there's probably 0 first-time entrepreneurs in the whole world who could have raised the amount of money that Elon was able to raise for SpaceX.
Right, sure.
To build a rocket company.
Yep.
Right? Who could have even done that?
Yep.
Even the number of second-time entrepreneurs.
Close to 0.
Even we probably couldn't have done that.
I don't think you and I could have done it.
Only an Elon
right.
could have done that.
Right.
But he was able to compound his thing to create a next-generation company that may actually get us to Mars or may not, but there are advantages of having had the experience and the success that you can then leverage to create things for the world that it couldn't. And that's where, Hippocratic had both, we bought patience with our success and our prior credibility. We bought resources.
And when you say you bought patience, you mean like the benefit of time.
Time, yes, not
humans. Yeah, just to be clear.
Different, same word, different meaning, obviously. Spelled different, but yeah. But I think that we fundamentally were able to buy time.
Yep.
And we were able to buy really, and also like the testing I mentioned.
Yep.
There's tens of millions of dollars to hire thousands and thousands of nurses to test the AI.
Yeah.
It wasn't like nothing. And so you're able to build things the right way. You're able to do it. You're able to have patience. You're able to put the teams on it. You're able to hire clinicians. I think like 10, 15% of our company are actually
clinicians. Yeah.
Never mind all the like part-time staff that's helping to certify things, but these are the advantages you have. And so you use them to build something maybe other people couldn't build.
This is a really big deal. I mean, when I explain to people the arc of honor, one of the things I explain is we have done it the harder, slower way. But so that once we are where we are now, for example, I know I've done it the right way and the team has done it the right way, which is the safe way. It's the ethical way. And then it's the way where when you get 10 years in, we're 12 years in, you know that you've built something that can stand the test of time.
Yes.
That's a really big deal. It's just much, much harder to do, but it sounds like you're doing it with Hippocratic. We've certainly been attempting to do that with honor.
Yeah. No, I think there's always this presumption that because you're a tech person, you are willing to go fast and break things.
Right.
And, for those of us that have been in our own healthcare, I just always ask the question, I'm like, would I let this call my mother?
Right. For sure.
And I do not want to hurt my mother.
Yeah.
I do not want to hurt anyone's mother.
Yep.
And, all of us are humans at some level and want to create great things for society. And we may also be tech people that want to drive disruption and change in the world, but that doesn't mean that overrides everything.
Well, the easy summary is probably you chose to call it Hippocratic.
Yeah.
We chose to call it honor.
Honor. Yeah.
Both names have a meaning for a reason.
That's true. Yeah.
Cool. Okay. Last question for you, Munjal. So this is the question I actually literally ask everybody who applies for a job to work on my direct team.
Yeah.
Ask it to you now. Everybody gets their energy from somewhere when they wake up. Like I wake up, and either you could kind of, if you're us, you could go to the beach, or you could go to work and like work on a hard problem and try to make the world a better place, which is what you and I seem to choose to do. I'm kind of curious, where does that energy come from for you? And not just like, because I like making the world better, but like, how'd you become that person, right? Like, how did you become the person that decides to wake up and put your energy into world change as opposed to something that would have been just easier?
I don't know how far back I should go in this, but
you are free to go back to childhood.
You can meet my 6th grade teacher, Mrs. Lundgren. I remember her name, in computer science class, who I said, hey, I was going to one day kind of, build a tech company.
Wow.
Okay, so
you said that to her in 6th grade?
I said that to her in 6th grade.
There you go. You grew up kind of around here, right?
I grew up in Silicon Valley. So
okay.
But exactly. Like if I grew up in Detroit, I'd be like, I'm going to start a new car company. Like it's not that different, right?
No, the ecosystem
Everybody's
matters
kind of a product of their, and I always say there's always geographic branding in the world, right? Yeah. You want to build cars in Detroit, and you want to build perfume in France, and you want to build shoes in Italy, and you want to build AI in California. So, but I think that, so I started there. I then started my first company at age 26. We sold that to Alibaba. I started my second company We sold that to Google. Both were AI-oriented companies. And then the day after I sold the second one, I ended up with chest pains and ended up in the ER. So literally the very next day. Like the money wired, I'm high-fiving with my wife.
Right.
Should have been the best day of my career to date at that point. And then, my dad had his first heart attack in his mid-40s. I was 37, so it was ahead of schedule.
Yeah.
But obviously I didn't have the best genes. And I was about 40 pounds heavier than I am now. And I'm only, 5'6", so 40 pounds on me is a lot. And then I really got into health. Took some classes in endocrinology at Stanford at the extension program, and I loved it. In fact, the first day I spent 8 hours studying. My wife's like, they gave you 8 hours of homework the first day? And I'm like, no, I'm 8 chapters ahead.
Right, yeah.
This is just so interesting. Yeah. And I realized that had I done medicine before I did computer science, I might have gone that way. Right? Yeah. Like it was just so, like, I just enjoyed it. And then I started a company and built that up in the Medicare Advantage space, as you mentioned. But it didn't go as well as my first two. And then I had a choice to make. Right. And I was like, do I stop? I spent 10 years building that one that hadn't gone well. I was honestly quite exhausted. Yeah. I saw the ChatGPT moment though, and I'm like, oh my God, this is the AI I've been waiting for my whole life. Yep. It really finally works. Yep. And if I want to start something, like, this is my time to make a change, even though I'm tired. Yep. And I said, you know what? I'm going to go for this one. And I'm just going to put everything into it. And it's been insane. Yeah. I think I have worked every single day, including weekends, for 3+ years now. Yeah. And it's just that, you and I know it doesn't always, it's not always, the wind isn't blowing at your back this strongly as it's been with AI in the last 3 years. And I know, at least I've run businesses where the wind was blowing in my face and it was really hard. Yep. And I think every business owner knows that. Every franchise owner knows that. Like, there's just times it sucks. Yep. And when it's good, I'm like, you know what? It's good, but I don't know when it's going to stop being good. Right. So I better work as much as I can now and achieve this mission and build this company. And I think that, it's always been something I wanted to do. But I'd never had all the ingredients come together quite this way. Right. Yeah. And this company is growing faster than any other one. It's scaled faster. We've had a bigger impact on more patients. I'm finally delivering what I wanted to do, but at the same time, you do have to be that person that's willing to do it. The other day I was like, oh yeah, I just want to go on vacation on the beach. I'm like, how many hotels on the beach I have pictures where I can't remember what hotel that was? Sure, yeah. Unless I look at the other pictures, I'm like, I don't know. Like, is that like at the end of my life, they're going to be like, he slept on the beach a lot. Right. Like, no, that's not what I want. And my kids are older now. Yep. There's this very interesting thing that happens I didn't realize until, like, my daughter's about to go to college. My son's been in college for 4 years. There's a second renaissance. Yeah. Where you can work as much as you did in your 20s, but you have the wisdom and experience to do things in an hour that used to take you a day, or do things in a day that used to take you a week. And you still have your health. And so I'm like, this is my time. Yeah. And to kind of do all the things I've been wanting to do my whole career. And we'll see. That's awesome. Cool. Well, Munjal, thank you so much for joining us. Really appreciate it. It's been a great conversation. Thank you for having me. All right. Take care. See you, everybody.